Today, I'm speaking with Mark Boyanowski. Mark was the first person to beat Marcin Mascow's 41 out of 41 multi-blind world record, which was the longest a cubing world record had ever stood up until that point. Mark has also held the world record single and average for FMC, achieving the first ever sub-23 average and second sub-18 single. Mark got second in multi at Worlds 2019 and is the only person to podium in every quiet event at a US Nationals in 2016. Hello, I'm joined today by Mark Boyanowski, and say hi, Mark.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yep, Mark here beat the most legendary world record to me, at least. I remember watching that 41 out of 41 video when I started cubing, and I remember you beating it, and I was like at the dentist or something, and I like walked outside and I was like, oh my god, someone beat that? That was crazy.
Yeah, that was definitely a legendary record for me as well. That was definitely my favorite cubing accomplishment. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but that's
That
cool to
is
hear
like,
your experience with it as well.
yeah, I usually ask like favorite cubing accomplishment towards the end, and that is written down here. So I guess I'll write down to skip that. But
Sorry, I'm
uh,
jumping the gun.
yeah. So my first question, I normally start with the stupid question. So what was your Varasano's story? Because I know your WCA profile picture is at Varasano's.
Yeah, gosh, I can't. I'm trying to remember like which competition that was and stuff. But I just remember going there with like Walker Welch and just I'm gonna have a hard time remembering who else was at the comp, but we all went to dinner there, and someone just brought up that hey, Verasano's is like pretty close to this competition, and Verasano was there like talking to us and talked for a really long time about like he was talking about AI and like what he was doing in computer science and robotics and
When was
uh,
this?
I think that was 2017. I want to say it was uh, I don't know. It was really interesting. It's been such a long time now that yeah, I wish I could have more details and like lay out the whole story, but it was a really cool experience. He was a very interesting guy to talk to for sure.
Hmm.
A lot of ideas and a lot of interesting things he was working on. That and like I say, he was like talking about AI and stuff, and I think that was
He was
like way
he was
before.
jumping the gun on that.
Yeah, like it was like way before the whole like AI boom now and stuff. So.
Hmm. So it's just like some Georgia comp or something, I guess, that you went to.
Yeah, I guess it would have been, yeah.
Interesting. Uh, I remember in the multi WR video you said like you did do a bunch of like traveling around.
Hmm.
Uh, was that just like I don't know, I don't want to say it's like, oh, it's coming out of your parents' pockets, but like did you just like enjoy traveling around? I saw you went to a California comp for one of your NARs as well.
Yeah, I used to travel a lot for comps, and I am really like grateful to my parents for supporting that. And I mean, looking back at all the comps that I traveled to, I'm not really sure how we managed all the traveling and just flying to competitions and hotels and stuff. I have great parents that I'm very grateful for that were just like very supportive of everything I wanted to do. And yeah, there was a time where I was like, I would travel across the country for two FMC meets or three multi attempts. And yeah, it was something I enjoyed doing a lot. Maybe there'll be a time where I get to travel a little more like that again. Lately, I haven't been traveling for comps much, just like major comps, obviously.
Hmm.
But
Hey,
yeah,
you don't have to explain it. I've traveled this year just for rounds of FMC.
yeah, yeah. I really just I was just like very driven at that time to get as many like as many, cracks at setting a record as I could. And obviously also just the experience of being able to see friends and talk with people and stuff. But yeah.
Okay, so starting back a little bit, how and when did you start cubing?
Uh so I mean I wish I had like a more unique started cubing story. I think it's really just I knew that the Rubik's Cube is like such a big thing in popular culture and like the public consciousness is like this is impossible, you're a genius if you can solve this. And so I just had this I don't know, I just had this mindset where I was like, well, I want to see how hard this actually is, right? I want to, and I was probably I don't know how old I would have been at the time. Maybe I was like 11 or something like that.
Well, your ID is 2014.
Yeah, I didn't compete. Yeah, I didn't compete until quite a bit later. But when I first learned to solve, it was probably a few years before that, and I just remember looking up. It was Rob H0629's tutorial. I know to solve 3x3. And when I first got into cubing, I did a lot of like I was really into like unofficial puzzles, like I don't know, like Pyraminx Crystal is one that I remember being into and stuff like that. And it wasn't until a lot later that I became aware of cubing competitions and like official events and records and that kind of thing.
So you kind of like got into it more just for liking solving puzzles and like the challenge of it, more than competitive cubing, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I was always kind of the stereotypical like nerdy kind of kid. Like I liked comic books, I liked math, so I just kind of it just I guess twisty puzzles were just kind of a natural fit for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So, and then you just, I guess, found out about competitions online eventually. I don't know if you would remember that, like, you immediately looked for videos of, like, people solving cubes fast or something, and just, like, stumbled upon it later.
I'm sure. I'm sure I had some awareness of it. I also remember really liking Megaminx at that time, and I think I saw like some of the official solves and stuff like that. Like I remember seeing is it Simon Westland? I think his solves.
That would make sense.
I remember seeing. I remember looking at like Big Cube stuff and seeing Kevin Hayes and Felix Zemdegs at some point. But I mean, as far as like actually getting into competitions, I think mostly I have to give the credit to my mom. She got me into the Michigan Cubing Club, uh, and I was able to connect with people that way. Like that's where I met Kit Clement for the first time, and just I don't know a lot of the Michigan cubers that
You guys
I
just,
kicked.
was this club at, like, uh, Michigan State or something? Or your mom find out just on, like, online, I guess, or something, I guess?
She found out online. It was at University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and I think I was maybe the only one there that wasn't a student there, but it was
Hmm.
open to it was open to anyone in the area. And maybe there were a couple other people. I'm not sure, but I was several years younger than anyone else
Yeah.
in the club. And that's kind of been a continuing trend with I think like most of my cubing friends are a few years older than me, like Walker Welch and
Yeah.
Ryan DeLine is someone I've been friends with a long time, and cubing community and Kit Clement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. There's a cubing club at Florida State University, where like
Hmm.
Tommy and Sean are, and they're
Hmm.
it's pretty much all just college kids, and then there's like a 9-year-old whose mom brings him there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, I wasn't quite that young, but I was.
Yeah.
There was definitely a yeah, there's definitely a gap there between me and all the college students. And I mean, I think it was very helpful for me just because I've always been kind of socially awkward and
Hmm.
introverted and stuff. So uh, I don't know. It threw me into the deep end a little bit to kind of make friends with people that were a little bit older than me
Yeah.
and just get into the community and stuff. And I think it was really positive for me.
Did you start going to that club prior to comps, or like did it have
Uh,
some influence on going to comps?
boy, I don't remember the order of things. I think I went for a little bit my first uh before my first comp. It was probably pretty close though.
Hmm.
I think just finding out about the club and finding out about like local competitions and like actually going to official competitions was probably went hand in hand. Those were kind of close together, yeah.
Yeah. So you seemed immediately drawn. I don't know if it would be immediately drawn because I know you said
Mhm.
you started cubing before, but to the quiet events, like
Mhm.
I know in your first year, you got a 49 official three blind mean and like a 30 FMC mean, four blind, five blind multi, all within
Mhm.
like a year of competing. So, which were even better back then, like comparatively, than now. So, what got you like into the quiet events?
Boy, that's a good question. Um, I think, I mean, I think part of it is just how like analytical they are kind of appeals to me. Like I really, I mean, it's gonna sound like so strange to people probably, but like I always kind of liked FMC because it's like taking a test. Like I like something about that, like having an hour to,
Hmm.
to sort of pit your mind against something and like have that challenge. As far as blind, I mean, uh, I remember Noah Arthur's videos really getting me into it at the start, and yeah, I think and also Mike Huey was someone whose videos I watched a lot at that time. I think maybe it was just the same thing again of like seeing someone solve the cube blindfolded. That seemed like such a crazy, like such an amazingly difficult thing to do, and I wanted to know like how do people do this, you know?
Hmm. Do you think you had like different kind of cubing heroes back then? Like, did you think like look up more to like Noah Arthur's and like watching Three Blind NARs or something like that, as opposed to like Big Cube Records or something?
Yeah, I think so. I think like I definitely remember Noah Arthur's videos and Mike Huey's videos and also like uh at some point around that time looking at Mascow's videos and just finding that incredibly impressive and like his 41 out of 41 just seeming like I remember it's probably as far back as 2014 or 2015 like just having some awareness of that as being like that's an impossible record, you know.
Hmm.
So he was definitely one of my cubing heroes or idols from pretty early on for sure. But yeah, I think probably at that time it shifted to me looking up to uh, a lot of the blind solvers at the time, and uh, yeah, I guess I didn't really have that much awareness of some of the big FMC solvers at that time. Probably for FMC, I think I was just having fun doing that with Kit Clement, Ryan DeLine, and Jay McNeil and Walker Welch, and just some of the
Hmm.
friends that I would talk with on back then was on Skype, uh, and now we
Sad relic
still
of the
keep in,
past.
yeah, now we keep in touch over Discord and still do FMC sometimes. But I think with FMC it was just they all did it and kind of
Hmm.
got me into it. So
You think you got into FMC like around the same time as blind events as well.
Yeah, I think with FMC it might have been a little bit earlier from what I remember. Um, I definitely remember uh like I remember my first 32 flat mean just being really good for me at the time. I'm not sure which competition that was. I think it was a multi-location like comp if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that was a little bit before I like really got into blind. I'm kind of bad at arranging these events and
Yeah,
the
that was
timeline. You know.
October 2014.
Okay.
FMC
Yeah.
USA.
Yeah.
Um, so back then, how did you learn three style? I know we talked about Noah Arthur's, but were there
hmm
any like supplemental resources or like people list out their algs anywhere, or were most of your algs just like mostly figured out on your own?
At the start, I think I was going almost all like intuitive, just making my own Alex, and they were probably terrible. Like back when I was using DF, UBL, and I think it was pretty much Noah Arthur's video where he talks about like how commutators work and
Yeah,
the
the
I think
chords.
he's yeah, does he have like on the plate and he like
Yeah.
shows
Yep.
the interchange? Yeah. Um, and I guess that tied into FMC as well because yeah, I mean obviously now the meta is DR, but like at that time I was like corner insertion, so knowing corner comms was really important for
Mhm.
FMC as well. So I think those things kind of went hand in hand, and I was learning how commutators work mostly from that video, and yeah.
Mhm. That makes sense. Um, what do you think? What was the like blinder circle back then, like prior to 2016 or something? Because you would have already been like well ranked in the world. Did you like talk to anyone
Hmm.
else online for blind?
Um, that early I can't remember if I was or not. I mean, uh like I definitely remember relatively early on and also like getting into five blind and I was trying to go for a North American record in that and I remember Tailstone also being
Hmm.
kind of really getting into five blind around that same time as well and just very quickly surpassing me in five blind. Um I mean, most of the people I think I talked to online was probably a little bit later, and that was like Ishan Agrawal was someone that I talked to a lot online, and he was very helpful to me with switching buffers and learning better algs, and
When would you
uh,
have done that? Like switching to I don't know UF or something.
uh, I'm definitely skipping ahead there because that was actually after my 43 out of 44 in WR.
Yeah,
I was still using DFUBL for that.
that's what I thought.
But uh yeah, as far as like the blinders like circle at that time, I mean I remember talking with Ishan a lot. I remember talking with Max Hilliard and John Franco
Hmm.
and also like some of the other multi-blind solvers eventually like Shivam Bonsall and Camille Shabilsky.
Hmm. Kind of more broadly, I guess your circle of cubing friends. I know you have like attributed a lot of your FMC success to like Walker. So I guess you have like this tight knit community. I know I've seen the pictures of like Chris Olsen's wedding, and then it's like James LeChance, Quick Clement, like all those group of people.
Uh-huh.
Would you like just I don't know, just do a lot of FMC with these people, or how much of your success do you attribute to that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would attribute a lot of the FMC success to that, and like, yeah, it was mostly like Kit Clement, Walker Welch, Ryan DeLine, Jay McNeil. I think Jay has been extremely helpful to me more recently in like learning DR and HDR stuff, and just like I don't know, just like mindset stuff in general.
Mhm.
Jay is just great to talk to. Um, and but yeah, I mean, at the start, I think I improved a lot just by like I was doing a ton of FMC at that time, and we would all do uh the weekly competitions, like the
Mhm.
David Adams weekly. And I remember just like being so obsessed with FMC at the time that I would do the weekly before them sometimes, just because I was so like I just couldn't get enough FMC. Just like looking back, I don't know, it's quite funny.
I mean, you have to do that to be good.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know. I'll have my periods of time where I'm like that with an event, I guess, and I've kind of gone in and out with being that way with FMC. There will be periods of time where I'm doing multiple attempts a day, and
Mhm.
periods of times where the rest kind of creeps in, which has kind of happened lately. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if this sticks out to you specifically, but I think you started getting a lot more successful in 2016 specifically compared to previous years. Like you went from like 29 FMC made to 25, started getting your multi-blind NARs and like low 30s three blind. Do you think there's like a mental shift then, or is it just a result of practicing more? And like yeah, at Nats 19, not Nats 19, Nats 16, you podiumed in every quiet event as well.
Um. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, definitely. Practicing is a big part of it, but I probably got a lot more dedicated around that time into I don't know, just doing more like focused practice and really trying to look at, instead of just grinding solves, really like looking at what I was doing and what I was doing wrong and what I could improve on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as far as like nationals podiums and stuff, I seem to remember. I'm pretty sure it was 2015. There were several like quiet events that I wanted to try and podium in, and uh, I don't know. I think like in Big Blind, I had DNFs by a couple pieces or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and was kind of. I think I was too slow. I think I was too slow to really have a shot at podium in three blind. But I think like just that experience of kind of like I had some events where I thought I might be competitive in, might be able to podium, and then next year, just kind of using that and using sort of
Mm-hmm.
what I'd kind of done wrong mindset wise probably helped as well.
Do you think kind of like I don't know how much you valued like the multi NARs back then, but do you think kind of like riding the high off that could have helped as well mentally?
Probably, yeah. I was pretty I mean multi-blind was definitely really important to me at that time. So, um yeah, I definitely remember like valuing those NARs quite a bit. Like I would put a lot of thought into like the YouTube videos, like I don't know, just the like I even think about like the music I would use and all the analysis I would do of the splits for memo and stuff like that. So I was definitely already putting a lot of importance on it and probably putting way too much pressure on myself. Like just remember a big thing at that time being well, this would have been later, so I don't want to jump ahead again. Thinking a little bit later when I was doing more like 40 cube attempts. But yeah, I mean, like I still remember like the feeling of like the 24 out of 24 NAR, like
Mm-hmm.
Tim Wong's multi-blind NAR was just a huge thing I was going for such a long time, for
Yeah,
sure.
at your first comp, you attempted 21 cubes.
Yeah,
in 2014. So I'm guessing like
that
NAR was always on your sites.
yeah, that was I think the start of kind of a bad it was probably a bad mindset I had where I probably should have attempted a smaller number, but I had this idea of like, well, I'm capable, like I'm barely capable of 21. I should be doing 21 because I could get the NAR that way. And that's probably not a good way to be. I think I should have enjoyed the process a little more. And like that is something that happened later too with as soon as I could do 42 sub hour, I was like, I need to do 42 cube attempts because, you know,
I could beat
I
WR.
might
Yeah.
I might possibly get N out of N, like it's possible.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I remember that first 21 cube attempt being a disaster. I think I knocked like four of the cubes out of alignment and didn't know where they were. So I had four DNFs, and then on top of that, I had four cubes. I just didn't even attempt, I think, because I didn't know where they were. Uh, it was not a good start to my multi-blind career, that's for sure.
So kind of going back a bit,
Mhm.
my vision of like old school cubing resources or discussion is just speed solving forums. But
Oh
is
yeah.
that
Yeah.
where you learned about like Roman rooms or just like the process of multi in general?
Um, I definitely use the speed solving forums quite a bit. I remember using them a lot for FMC and some blind stuff. With rooms, I remember Oliver Frost doing a video about rooms. I think Noah Arthurs did as well. Uh, and I think Corey Skowski had like it was taking it way back to the days of Cubing World. I watched a lot of those videos.
Hmm.
And yeah, just those were some of the resources I remember looking at the most, I think, for as far as Roman rooms go, for sure.
Yeah. And prior to you making your video about it, aphantasia wasn't really like a term within cubing, I feel like. So what was
Mhm.
your kind of realization and process with that like?
Yeah, that was something that I had a kind of a complicated journey with, I think, because it was the kind of thing that for a long time, and I've looked into it more and seen that a lot of people kind of have this experience. Like I thought when people talked about visualizing things in their mind's eye, like they were kind of speaking figuratively. It just seemed so obvious to me that that's not possible to see a clear, vivid image in your head. And then I don't know when I had the realization or when it clicked for me that oh, people are actually able to do something that I'm just not able to do.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember it being a big source of worry for me because I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to be world class in multi-blind because like everyone says, the whole thing about it is you're supposed to be sort of vividly imagining these, stories and letter
Hmm.
pair images. So I remember having like a lot of pessimism about it and just thinking like if I can't overcome this, maybe you can't get world class and multi-blind with this. I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it.
Hmm.
Condition, I guess. Um, and later my thinking on it evolved a lot more, where I realized it's just kind of. I guess it's just a different way that I imagine things or you know experience memorization and see the world and stuff. Not necessarily a worse way. And also, uh, like talking to some of the other multi-blind solvers, I realized that it was not so much of like a huge impediment as I thought. It's
Yeah.
I have a very strong memory of the first time I talked with Mascow over Facebook Messenger. I think that was a little bit before World Champs 2017, and that was a huge moment for me, like asking him about it, and I think he said something along the lines of like, "Oh yeah, I don't visualize anything,"
Yeah.
and that was such a shocking like. That was just such a shocking like, oh, I guess this thing that I've worried about so much is not such a big deal after all.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like they put more emphasis on visualizing stuff back then versus
Hmm.
now. I know like
Yeah.
Elliot like de-emphasizes visualizing. Like no, don't do it. And I was
Yeah.
wondering if you kind of like reached the conclusion of just tying the sentences to the locations within the rooms themselves, like on your own.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what you talked about in your video about it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think a big part of it was also talking to other multi-blinders about it, and yeah, and it was also partly just realizing that I don't know, like yeah, I guess I de-emphasized visualization as well. I mean, partly because I can't really do it, but also because it does seem like now it just seems like so time consuming. I mean, unless you're a super like visual thinker and it just really comes to you, um
Hmm.
like each pass for every cube has to be so fast now that it almost doesn't seem like you'd have time to visualize.
Yeah.
um but yeah, yeah.
So from 2014 to 2016 of getting your first NAR, do you think it? I'm curious, were there like other people threatening NAR, and was that like your main focus, or was it just focusing on improving as much as you could?
um I think I think it was mostly focusing on improving, and I mean, I remember Kale Schoen uh getting into multi-blind a bit around that time, but I think when I was first really gunning for NAR, not too many people were practicing multi-blind very seriously that I can remember. I do remember there being a period of time where it was just kind of like a weird thing that that I was like really trying hard to develop at multi-blind. There weren't too many other people doing that, I think, but I remember 23 out of 25 NAR being a huge goal for me, and like yeah, rewatching that video over and over, and um I don't know. I think I was pretty focused on the results and like going for sort of going for that checkpoint or that goal.
Hmm.
Um and then, after that the next big goal I guess was WR, which seemed so out of reach at one point. Obviously, it was just a huge jump. Like, I mean, Moscow was just so far ahead, of everyone else
Hmm.
in the world for such a long time.
Yeah, and I feel like you went from like 2014 to 2016 up to getting 24 out of 24, but from there I think you went to 24 to like the mid 30s pretty fast. Uh, do you think like
Mm.
just superseding FMC, like multi-blind was kind of like your main goal of improvement and like focus on keeping at that point?
I would say so, yeah. Because FMC, I don't know, it was always an event I enjoyed a lot and would do kind of obsessively, but I don't remember having that like this is the result I want to get. Like this is the I mean obviously the like records are always there, as some goal out there to be attained, but with multi-blind it was always very much like I want to go for this 23 out of 25
Hmm.
NAR. I want to have a shot at WR someday. So I think I don't know. Like I mean, I hate to say that it was. I mean, that's just it was. a very results-oriented thing for a while. I mean, obviously, I also enjoyed multi-blind a lot and just the process of it, but I think multi-blind over FMC was definitely like I was definitely thinking about the results. And I was definitely thinking about improving my ranking more than I was in FMC
Hmm.
for sure.
I'm also curious, like when you got like 24 out of 24, 31 out of 32, whatever. What was that like ranked in the world?
Boy, I don't remember. 31 out of 32. Hmm. I'm trying to remember like what WR2 was at that time and whatnot.
It'd be an easier question to answer if they were stored past your rankings.
Yeah,
I remember having that feature when I started cubing in 2017. So,
yeah, I I mean, I wish I could just have it like right on the top of my head. I'm sure it was very important to me at the time. Yeah,
yeah. So,
I just don't want to say a number and be horribly wrong, you know?
mhm. So getting into the like the mid 30s, at what point did your practice become focused more towards WR and like you realized it was more within reach?
Um, I definitely, I definitely remember a point around that time where I don't know, it just felt like I was like there were like I said there weren't too many people at that time that I think were really seriously practicing multi-mind or going for the WR. So I kind of felt like I don't know, it felt like uncharted territory in a way. Obviously it wasn't because, you know, Moscow had charted that territory before, right?
Hmm.
But uh it did feel like oh there aren't too many people going for this record, maybe I just want to like try and push it a little more and push it a little more and see like what my limit is. And I didn't even like now I look at things a lot differently where I think for the most part I look at things like if someone else was able to do something I should be able to if I put enough work and effort into it and dedication into it I should be able to do that too. I mean, you know, aside from something like I'm not going to be a, a, a a player in the NBA or something,
Hmm.
but like in terms of cubing, like I kind of look at a lot of things that way now. But at that time, I didn't even know if going for WR was going to be possible for me. I think I had a lot of thoughts of like what if Moscow just has like a brain that's developed for multi-blind that I don't have or something, right? I mean, that's how people looked at him, like he was a machine, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and now like Graham and Rowe have just taken the limit of what's possible so much farther. But yeah, I think at that time it was more just I was just thinking like, how far can I push this? What's my limit? Um, what can I do in this event, you know?
Hmm. So, do you think you kind of like, well, going back to what I said about like really becoming focused on WR, do you think that
Mhm.
started with like when you first started attempting 42 officially, or was it like a specific one of the 42 results, like 37 out of 42 or 40 out of 42?
Um, I mean, I think it was something I was thinking about probably before that, just because I was thinking, like I said, I was thinking about like, is this possible? Can I try and go for this? But yeah, I mean, I think it is just the kind of thing where once I was getting 42 under an hour, like I hadn't gotten any N out of N attempts at 42, but that was really where it was like, okay, I can start going for this, like this is possible. And I think there was a long time where probably I should have just been doing like 39 cube attempts officially, and I probably could have gotten better accuracy and not had as much pressure on myself, but
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I think as soon as I'd kind of done the first, like my first official 42 cube attempt, I had a lot of pressure on myself to,
Mhm.
uh, you know, keep keep taking a crack at WR and you know at that time it was pretty like the idea of me getting an N out of N attempt and would have been like it would have definitely been overall PB and it would have been overall PB in comp. Like it was pretty
Yeah.
definitely a long shot when I was doing those 42 cubes attempt 40 cube 42 cube attempts officially, but
Do you
it was
think you would go
definitely
back and change it to where you were doing less?
uh it's hard to say. I mean, I feel like if I had done that, then I would have been doing it like more for the process and more for just enjoying each attempt, and I probably could have gotten better results, and maybe that would have built more confidence. So, you know, I, I mean, looking back, I kind of think like I would want to tell myself like you can do some 39 cube attempts, like it's okay,
Hmm.
and you can try to do this later. But when we get into trying to like change things, like who knows what the trajectory of things would have been. Like
Hmm.
I can say, looking back, that it might have made me develop more quickly and faster and like get more confidence and stuff like that. But maybe it wouldn't, maybe it would have
Yeah.
been a problem in its own way.
Going into 2018,
Hmm.
you had gotten some successful 42. Well, your first attempt was 40 out of 42. Do you think like telling yourself 2018 was like, oh, this is going to be the year that I'm going to get WR?
I think I think it was definitely feeling like it was around the corner, and also definitely by that time there were more people going for it as well. Like I remember talking with Shivam Bonsall a lot, and
Hmm. The same weekend
um,
that he got 43 out of 46, you got 40 out of 42.
yeah, yeah. So it was uh, it definitely felt like the race was on. There were a lot of people. There was a handful of people like knocking on the door of that record, and I remember definitely me and Shivam really uh, you know, really putting a lot into, wanting to be the first and
Hmm.
trying to, just trying to improve ourselves and like kind of uh, push each other to improve, I think. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was always just like a really positive thing. Like I don't think of it as being like a super competitive thing or a super like adversarial thing at all. We were just always, I think all the multi-blinders were just all trying to like help each other out, and
Yeah, I was going to
share.
ask
Yeah,
if like you felt like you particularly wanted to be the first to beat Moscow, or it wasn't very competitively minded.
I definitely wanted to be. um, I, yeah, I mean, I, I don't know how to. I guess it was competitive, but it was also like very friendly competitive. Like I think everyone wanted to be the first for sure, but also would have been very happy to see anyone else be the first, like just to see it be achieved. So,
Hmm. It,
um,
I
yeah.
just thought of now, if you think, going back, like, imagine if Shivam got it first. Do you think you
Hmm.
would still, like, say he got 42, 43 points or something like that? Do you
Hmm.
think you would have continued practicing for WR and tried to go for like a 45 point or something like that?
Wait, that's a great question. Um, I think that I would have. I think I would have still been very motivated, and I mean, depending on, I guess, depending on what the circumstances were, because it was not too. I guess it was probably like 2 months after my 43 out of 44. Shivam got 48 out of 48. If if Shivam had gotten 48 out of 48 and that had been the first result to beat 41 out of 41, uh, that would have felt really difficult to beat at that time. And I obviously like I haven't even uh beaten that officially. My PR is still 47 out of 50. So if it had jumped that much, I'd like to I'd like to think I would have had the motivation to keep going and try to be the first one to 50 points or something, but uh it's really hard to know in hindsight. I mean, I did, after WR I did keep really trying to develop and just trying to optimize and push my own limits and stuff. Like after that I switched buffers to UF/UFR and like really tried to focus hard on like hardware and stuff like that.
You got those black GTS2s?
Yeah, yeah, I went through the very intensive process of swapping out all the yellow sides for black because I was like, I'm gonna try to optimize every element of this. If there's low lighting conditions, I'm gonna make sure I have the contrast between white and yellow. I'm never gonna have any lost time to mismemoing because I mix up white and yellow. Yeah, and I don't know. It is funny, like looking back on what the things were that I put time into optimizing, I guess.
So like you didn't give up on it after getting WR then.
Right. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was definitely still trying to improve with the event and, try and push things farther. It ended up that I think, I think that like Graham, for example, definitely has probably just a better work ethic with multi-blind than I ever did, but also, probably a better mindset about improving. And so, he's obviously gone really far with pushing limits of the event and definitely, deserves all the success he's had with it. But, I definitely tried for some time after to push my own limits farther and uh, I'm happy with what I was able to achieve after WR. I was very happy with second at World Championships 2019. So
2019, yeah. Prior to the WR, were you like trying to focus on any sort of mental preparation, or what was your like? I guess just practicing in general prior to each competition.
um, I definitely I remember competition nerves being a huge thing for me, and I tried to. It's something I tried to address, but with varying levels of success. I think I really think that I never figured that out. Like multi-blind and just like competition performance was just always kind of remained a mystery. I would have attempts that would go well, and I would think that I knew why, and then I wouldn't really have it figured out, and I would just get another like train wreck attempt.
That's cubing for you.
Yeah. And actually, like I don't think I've ever really like told this story much or anything, but when I got the WR, it really, I think like it really felt like everything was going wrong, and it shouldn't have been a successful attempt at all. So, for like one thing was that uh, the airline, I flew there to the competition in Portland with my mom, and the airline lost my checked bag with my multi-blind cubes in it. And
On the way there.
my yeah,
Ooh.
and my mom, I'm very grateful for this, and like yeah, everything she does to support my cubing and stuff. And she, like while I was at the competition, she was contacting them and like went to the airport to get my bag, and it was I'm probably making it a little more dramatic than it was, but I mean I think it was pretty close. Like on the day when the multi-blind attempt was, I was able to get my bag back and submit. And that obviously, like, it caused that caused a lot of stress for me. But
Yeah,
at the same time,
I'd be like, oh no, I hope I don't mess this up now.
yeah, and I will say, like, I do want to shout out the fact that, like Kit Clement said, like, yeah, I mean, if you had gotten your cubes that day and it would have been like next day, we would have just moved multi-blind for you, which was very nice of him to say that. But still, it was just, yeah, it was this very stress-inducing thing. But I think it probably took my mind off of the attempt. I mean, maybe the lesson from that is,
Mhm.
if you can have something else that like focuses your nervous energy or something like that. But like even during the attempt, I think it's one of those attempts where you feel like you made like six mistakes, and it was like the only error was one cube at the end that I had set aside that I forgot, I think, edge memo for.
Mhm.
Um, but it's one of those attempts where you feel like, oh, did I mess that elg up? That's probably DNF. Did I have a one move execution error there? Did I do that com inverted? And you take the blindfold off and wow, that doesn't seem possible.
That was your first attempt at a 44 as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I see that you had attempted 46 prior to that as well. Oh no, wait, no, you had a 44 attempt right before that. Do you think that was just kind of
Okay.
like if you were gonna get WR, that there was like a specific number you'd have to attempt to do that?
Um, I was definitely thinking a lot about, like, N out of N attempts were very few and far between for me at home. So I was definitely thinking about, like, I'm gonna need one cube of margin for error or two cubes, or and so I was thinking about, like, probably I'll have to get to a point where I'm comfortably doing 46 so that I could DNF two cubes. And um but it was also just, like I said, kind of a friendly but competitive race for who could beat that record. So there, the pressure was also on to, like, what is the highest number I can likely do, and also have some chance that if I miss one cube. But I definitely don't think I was expecting to get WR at that comp. Like, I mean, like you've said, like, I just had so many attempts at it before that were like 40 out of 42, and I don't remember like what some of the 46 cube, like how that attempt went. But I was at the point where pretty much the pattern was I'd do an attempt and get several DNFs, and I wasn't expecting any one attempt to be the one.
Hmm. What was it just like getting WR? I watched the video for this and I thought it was very funny how I think Walker stops you and then Kit reaches out and shakes your hand and like you're just kind of like sitting there like I don't know why. And then he says WR after shaking your hand. I thought that was
And I think I have a reaction where I'm just like, what, really?
funny.
Yeah, I mean, that was just such a euphoric moment, I guess. Just I mean, I had been it had just been such a long journey of, like, first seeing that record as like possibly unattainable. Like at the start, it just it was such a legendary record, and then just trying to improve and push myself, and then getting into, like, more into the blind community, and you know having the opportunity to meet and talk to such amazing people in the community. And I don't know, just the culmination of all that, and like to finally kind of have everything click in an official attempt and sort of get that goal that had been so important to me. Yeah, it was a huge rush of emotion for sure.
So, along the way to it, uh, do you think you have like any interesting challenges when it came to improving?
Um, yeah, I mean, there definitely, I'm sure there's a lot of things that were like huge barriers to me at the time, that uh, I probably can't remember as well now. Uh, I mean, I just remember being really focused on. Yeah, I was very focused on like memo and review orders and experimenting with that. Like there were a lot of changes I made. Um, I remember like going from like the Mascow's system of like memoing two cubes and reviewing two cubes, and
Hmm.
then doing that 4 times and then reviewing a pack of eight, and then eventually switching to memo 1 through 8, review 1 through 8.
Hmm.
Although I think for the WR I was still doing the Mascow way probably. Um,
Was the 1 through 8 thing
mhm.
your idea, or where did you get that from?
I don't think it was my idea. I think that was how Shivam reviewed. It was either Shivam or Graham's idea. I don't wanna
Hmm.
attribute credit incorrectly. But I don't think that was my idea because I was pretty for a long time. I kind of looked at the Moscow videos as like gospel, like
Hmm.
this is how you do multi-blind, and I think I was less of an innovator than some of the other people probably.
Yeah, I was.
Although,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say like I did experiment with like how to break up memo. Like I definitely remember switching from I at one point did 2 stories for edges, and then I actually ended up doing just 1 story for edges, 1 story for corners, um, which I think is kind of unusual. I think most of the top multi-blinders do break up edges, but I always gravitated more towards kind of longer stories, longer sentences. So
Hmm.
that was definitely something I experimented with, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I remember definitely taking Mascow's videos like as the blueprint for a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what was your memo system like? Like, I'm guessing just like one cube per room. I don't know if you like split it up specifically into different locations for your stories as well.
Yeah, I would do so I did every room had at the start it was every room had 6 locations and it would be 2 cubes in a room. So I would do like
Hmm.
part one of edges, part two of edges, corners, and then part one of edges for the next cube, part two of edges for the next cube,
I
and then
think that's
corners.
like
I
what
think
Mascow did, right? I think he used
yeah,
2 cubes per room.
yeah, I think so. And that was just something that made sense to me because at that time I was doing memo 2 cubes, review 2 cubes.
Hmm.
So having two in one room kind of made sense. And then later I just removed 2 locations from every room because I was just doing edges of cube one, corners of cube one, edges of cube two, corners of cube two in one room. So it was still 2 cubes per room, but I made it less less stories and as a consequence longer stories, but uh, never. I don't know. To me, it seemed easier to not have to like switch between locations as much, like not have to sort of load up the next location in
Hmm.
my head, and it was just easier to, you know, have everything and have everything for edges in one location and not have to like break in the middle of it to link to a new location. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I know multi has a lot of, well, multi and FMC are probably like the two hardest mindset events, as I would
Yeah.
know. Because I mean, so much of your attempts are just trashed, and they're like
Hmm.
an hour. So,
Yeah.
how do you think you like overcame the failures that were, well, not just leading up to WR, but like just pervading all of cubing?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know if that's something I ever like fully solved, but I think that I tried to come to a point where I think it's two things. Like one thing is you need to enjoy the process of it. Like if you're not just enjoy like you need to enjoy just the process of doing an attempt. Like even if it ends up as a DNF or it ends up like obviously that feels horrible, but you can still use that attempt to learn. You can like in the case of multi, you can still analyze those DNFs, and you still like had that practice of memoing and executing that attempt, even if it completely went off the rails. And I think the other thing is just trying to think less about, because for me, like it would feel so like if I did a 42 cube attempt, and I definitely have some like this on my profile where it's like it ended up as 23 out of 42 or whatever, something like that. Like that would feel so terrible at the time, and I would feel like it feels embarrassing too because you're like, oh, it feels like I tried to attempt 42 cubes and failed so miserably, and I would have this bad mindset of like also worrying about what other people thought of my attempts and stuff like that. I think another big part of just improving my mindset was also thinking like people aren't gonna focus on your worst attempts. It's gonna feel bad at the moment, but you just have to enjoy the process and enjoy the act of doing an attempt, even and just accept that like that happens. But and it's also rough in FMC for a different reason, because with FMC it's more of like it's more of like a train wreck in slow motion. Like if you're not finding stuff, you're just like, it's 30 minutes and I haven't found a reasonable start or a good DR, and now it's 15 minutes and this is feeling impossible. And it's also like a whole nother challenge with FMC, but I guess those are like the two biggest mindset things.
Yeah, and FMC just inherently is more like comparative to other people because there are a lot more people that are going to be of similar skill level, and I mean, you're just going to see what you missed right afterwards as well.
Yeah, and I mean with multi-blind, it's a lot more individualized, where it's like people are attempting different numbers of cubes, and people have their own orientation, their own letter pair systems, and their and with FMC it's really just like people might have slightly different approaches and things that they look at, but it's really like we're all on the same scramble, and like if you find something and then at the end of the attempt I DNF, I'm like, oh, I should have found what Noah had, and you don't really have that with multi-blind. So yeah, you're totally right. It's a lot more comparative in that way.
I remember the last attempt of NAC where I got second just now. And like
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. In the last like 5 minutes, I found a 9-move DR, and it was 2 corners misoriented, right? And I traced it to be odd. So after that, I determine if it's like 3 or 5 QT, right? Which if it's two corners and 3/4 turns and 9, and it was also minus 2 edges, it's like that's like gold mine case, right?
Yep.
And I had that like brief flash before I determined if it was like 3 or 5, where I was like, oh no, if I don't.
Yeah.
And it was the last attempt too, so I was like, oh no, everyone else is gonna find this DR 100%, and I'm gonna like not do well on this attempt. But then I found out it was 5, and it was like major relief on my part. Or else, if it was 3, I wouldn't have podiumed 100%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird. Yeah, FMC is weird in that way. Like just like I also remember like at I don't know, like at Worlds 2023, like I just performed really badly on the 3rd scramble.
And then a lot of people got 20s on that.
Yeah, and it was a really good scramble that I should have performed better on, but my mindset and my time management just wasn't good. But yeah, I mean, so it's the kind of thing where you're thinking about what is everybody else finding, and and like I've also thought a lot about like, is it worth it to like at major competitions, is it worth it to explore things that other people wouldn't really look at just to
Yeah.
like because it's kind of a gamble, right? Because it's like you could either miss something that's really good, that's obvious, or you could get three good attempts when other people don't, and it's an interesting event in that way, and it's that's part of it that you really can't simulate well at home. Like sometimes I'll do attempts on Discord with Jay, and I guess you can simulate a little bit there, but I don't know. You really can't simulate being at a major competition.
Yeah.
It's a very different feel than just being at like a local competition or some competition that has two means where you're just trying to go for PRs and stuff.
I think it's probably a bad habit I have, but what I started doing was not doing weekly weekly competitions
Mm.
online or like attempts with other people, because then my mindset does become like, oh, I need to beat everyone else and look at stuff they
Right.
might not find, and I just try to like focus on just doing the best I can. Which
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I won't learn about stuff that I should do, but I don't know. It seems
I
like
mean, I think I mean that's probably a healthier mindset. I mean, I think that looking at people's attempts from weeklies and stuff can be really helpful because you can see new approaches and learn things and stuff like that. But I think like not doing the weekly comps is and also just focusing individually on what you're doing and just trying to do the best you can. It probably is the healthiest thing you can do for sure.
hmm. And then going back to multi more, I'm curious if like just
Mhm.
at your at home attempts, would a lot of them be like, if you're doing 42 at home, would you have like occasional just 20 out of 42s or just like complete trash attempts?
Yeah, it would happen uh, probably more frequently than I'd like to admit. Yeah,
Yeah.
my consistency was never very good, and that was something I always really looked up to Graham for. I think his consistency has been really good, and also his mindset in comp is generally really good. He doesn't frequently choke for sure. I mean, um, yeah. So I don't know. I would definitely have those attempts at home too, and I think it was just again it was very mysterious for me. It would be yeah. I would kind of try to think of like things like, okay, I'll make sure I sleep well before, I'll make sure I eat well before, and stuff like that. But sometimes I just wouldn't have the focus. I'm not sure exactly. I should have probably looked into like meditation or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
have more of a pre-attempt ritual. And there were some things I identified that would help, but I never really fully figured it out.
I think it is important because like
Yeah,
all of multi is just shown through like this success videos. So, I mean, people don't upload their bad solves, right?
right. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do just have scrap attempts pretty
Hmm.
frequently. So, like
Yeah.
I had one today. I got like 28 out of 41 cubes or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely it would happen to me a lot. I think that was like the number one thing that I really wanted to figure out, and I wanted to have like I don't know if I want to say a system or just like I don't know a way of like dealing with. I really didn't like the way that sometimes things would just snowball. Like sometimes I would just kind of get a little distracted or have one thing go wrong, and it would just lead to like I would obsess over it the whole attempt. I would just kind of ruin the whole thing. I always wanted a way to deal with that, like I don't know, I guess like a safety mechanism or something to make sure I would just not have a train wreck attempt like that. But never something I figured out. I think Graham kind of has that figured out. You know, it's not something you can fully figure out, I guess. But.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't matter that much. People only just see the one PR, anyways.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
Kind of going back to general multi stuff. One thing I kind of noticed with the older attempts and your attempts is that proportionately your memo was a lot faster and slower execution as well.
Yeah.
With like your and Shivam's WRs both had like 30 exec per cube. It was like 29.9 or something. And I think I looked at like one of your 42 NARs and it was something like, oh, my memo for this attempt was like 37 minutes or something, which is really slow. And I looked at that and I was like, 37 memo for a 42 cube attempt, that's pretty darn fast. Like, you should have a lot of leeway in that. But I was wondering if your practice back then, like, was your source of improvement and focus just solely on memo? And did you, like, think about execution very much? I know, obviously, like, the algs and hardware was that back then, but was that just, like, the main thing you were thinking about?
Yeah, I have a lot of, I could probably ramble a lot about this actually. I think I think one reason for it is there's been a big shift where when I was really trying to develop in multi, I think there's kind of like two schools of thought, and like I always thought the way to optimize and the way to get better and push the limit and add more cubes was going to be fewer passes of memo. And I always thought like, you know, I'll try to have like my long-term stuff be 3 passes and have as much as I can like, you know, be 2 pass packs of cubes and you know like just I don't know, just thinking like how much could I have like 4 cubes at the end be 1 pass, or you know it was just optimizing for reducing the numbers of passes, and I think that was something that Shivam was really trying to do as well.
I think Shivam
And
does like 3
now,
pass, like just the entire time.
yeah, yeah, and now like the meta is completely different. Where I think I think most of the packs in Graham's attempts are what 4 pass, or for safe attempts might even be 5 pass.
I think he does something like, I think Graham and Rowe both split it into like 30 long-term cubes, and then Rowe just does 4 pass of those every time, and then Graham does like 4 or 5 pass at home to make sure he can do 5 pass officially and do like slightly less cubes.
Yep. So I would have never thought that the way to like push the limits and get to 60 plus cubes would be adding more passes. Like it feels counterintuitive to me, but at the same time, like if you're doing that many passes, you know, they can all just be extremely quick. And I don't know, like yeah, like you're reviewing the information that many times. It's obviously, you know, strengthening the memo, and it makes sense. It's just, to me, like it was completely the opposite of what I was trying to do as I was optimizing things and improving. And yeah, I didn't really focus too much on execution just because for me it wasn't as appealing. I always found the memo side of things more interesting, but after I got WR, I did focus really hard on execution with, you know, switching buffers and improving hardware and stuff like that, and optimizing my algs. But you know, even then, I don't know. Like, I mean, definitely my fastest executions are still like in the 20s per cube.
You
I
got
never.
down to 23 per cube at Worlds 19 in your 57. 50,
Yeah,
47 and 50.
Yeah, that's like definitely. I think that's the peak of. That's pretty close to the peak of what I ever achieved with execution. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me to see. I mean, I guess it's just probably comes down to people focusing on three blind and like grinding smaller attempts more than I did. I always just found it more motivating to do larger attempts and try to push the time per cube lower and lower. That was always more motivating for me. But yeah, I'm really impressed by the execution per cube for the top people now, for sure.
And it is still kind of like a developing thing. Like
Mhm.
these past couple of days, Roe has been doing like 3 pass 50 attempts, and just
Mm.
I know Roe is super into the idea of like potentially pushing the long term cubes down to like fewer and fewer passes, just because I don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
theoretically, less reviews is faster, but um,
Right. Yeah. That's
uh,
interesting. Yeah, I wasn't aware he was doing that actually. Yeah, so I mean that's interesting. I think there's still a lot of like unanswered questions of what is the limit and what are going to be the big advancements that are made to keep pushing the limit. Um, and I don't know. I've just always found that really interesting with the event. And
yeah, and on kind of like a similar note, I read in one of your descriptions that an idea that kind of agrees with what people now do now, but how fast your first pass or first couple passes are versus the reviews. So I
Mhm.
think you focused on like faster first passes and then slower reviews, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I was like, did you do like a lot of experimentation on that and just reach that conclusion yourself?
Um, I definitely I definitely was very like detail oriented with the splits and just yeah, thinking about how fast each pass is. And I don't know if it was so much. I don't remember doing much experimentation with like let me try it this way with a slower first pass and let me try it another way. I mean, I probably did a little bit of that, but uh I think it probably for me comes more down to like what feels more secure and what kind of like I would do a lot of attempts also like with timer updating on and like kind of trying to watch my pace as I'm doing the
Mm-hmm.
attempts. Um, I think that would help me to kind of optimize things and like find places where I could save time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely not something I developed to the point that Graham and Rowe are. It's really it's really amazing to see like their splits and just see like how quickly they can like three pass a block of 16 cubes. It's insane to me.
Mm-hmm. Um, what was your system like for, say, the 43 out of 44? Like, how did you split that up and doing like different passes for a certain amount of cubes, or what did that look like?
I think at that time it probably was 24 long-term cubes,
Mm-hmm.
or would have been. I think it was probably 24 long-term cubes, and I think I was still doing memo 2 review 2 and then review 8 instead of memo 1 through 8 review 1 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember when that switch happened exactly. But yeah, I would almost have to look back at the splits and see, but I think it was probably a system like that. And then after the first three packs, do a full review of 1 through 24 again. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but there was also, I mean, I also remember a time when I was doing 32 long term, but that was probably I think that was for longer attempts, like the 47 out of 50.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do like memo 1 through 8, review 1 through 8, do that twice, and then review 16. and then do that again for 17 through 32.
So that was kind of like the four pass mindset, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
The
so.
time.
Yeah.
And then going into Worlds, you got that 47 out of 50 as well.
Mhm.
Were you just practicing a lot leading up to that comp? And do you think you had like a shot at podium then?
That was another comp where, it felt like it really should not have gone as well as it did. I was practicing a lot before the comp and was really trying to have a shot at podium, but I remember I think it was the last like two or three uh attempts before that were really, really bad. I think I had like an attempt I remember I think it was an Airbnb I was at with some other people, and I did an attempt that it was probably like 30 out of 50 or something like that,
Hmm.
like pretty close before the competition, and I I just used it as an opportunity to analyze those DNFs. I analyzed as many as I could, and but I also think I went in with a mindset of well, we'll see what happens. My
Hmm.
last few attempts have been bad. Maybe this one will be bad. Maybe it'll be good. And so I think it was. I think like having that's one thing I've identified, and unfortunately you can't really like make it happen. But I've identified that when I have bad results before a comp, it kind of seems to help because I think it takes the pressure off.
Hmm.
It makes me think like, yeah, like, well, this could go either way. Let's just do it.
Yeah. And I noticed the time on that attempt itself was really fast. It was 54:18.
Hmm.
So like, do you think
Yeah.
you were just like very comfortable with 50 cubes at that time, or were you kind of safetying that attempt? Do you feel more than you would normally, or
Um,
do you think it just kind of turned out to be fast?
I think 50 was somewhat comfortable at that time. Like I remember at the very least like being able to do 52 cube attempts at that time, but I think I don't really safety much because I mean, for me, it makes sense to safety if you're like adding reviews or something like that, but I don't really safety in terms of like making each review slower or anything like that, just because I feel like once you change the pace you're used to, like for one thing, it's creating more delay between each time that you're reviewing the cube.
Hmm.
Um, so like going safe can actually have kind of a reverse effect unless you are like safetying by like still going at like quote unquote max speed, but adding reviews.
Hmm.
But I don't think I safetied. I think it was just one of those attempts where everything kind of flowed and everything stuck well, and that just leads to more pauseless execution. So it was faster than I was expecting for sure.
Hmm. Do you know why that video has 7 million views? By the way.
I have no idea. I think I remember looking at like the analytics for it, and I think I was seeing that a lot of the views came from people's recommended. I think I don't know the YouTube algorithm just showed favor on it and recommended it to people. I think that's all it was. I feel bad in a way because I know like there's other people that I mean I do put effort into my multi-blind videos like I was saying before. Like I do like try to think about like I think about the editing and I think about the music that I choose and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
uh, I didn't really do anything special with that video, and it's also like second place at Worlds, and it's just I didn't make a thumbnail for it or anything, and there's people more deserving of YouTube success for sure. But that video just kind of took off. I'm not sure why.
Mm-hmm. You're also like the only person I feel like that puts music with words in their attempts as well.
Yeah, I remember. I think that's probably just a thing from Mascow's videos that I kind of picked up. Uh, I really, there were a lot of Mascow's videos that I would just watch like over and over, and there were a lot of songs that he would choose that had lyrics, and I don't know, I liked trying to find songs that would kind of fit with the feeling of the attempt and stuff like that. I mean, I know it sounds kind of goofy, but you know.
No, I understand. A lot of them are like just normal classic rock as well. Is that what you kind of like?
Yeah, I do like classic rock a lot. And also some of my videos you'll see I'll put I'll put in the description music director Ryan DeLine, because sometimes Ryan DeLine I'll because he listens to a lot more music than I do, and I'll just ask him like, hey, you got a good song for for this video? Sometimes I'll do that, or sometimes I'll have a song that I just want to use. But yeah, I like classic rock. My dad got me into that quite a bit, so.
Mm-hmm. Um, for just moving towards the state of multi now, I guess the last thing you did was winning NAC. Were you also like deliberately practicing a lot for that?
Um, I'd say like right leading up to the comp I was, but I was definitely rusty at that time and didn't. That was definitely an example where I didn't think I had a shot at podium at all, and
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, I guess I thought I had a shot at podium, but it just kind of turned out that I remember a lot of people like Elliot having just having a hard time with that attempt, and then things didn't go well with a lot of people for the second attempt. So uh, I think I got quite lucky with that win. I will fully admit that. That was more just, I don't know, circumstances kind of worked in my favor to where I was able to have kind of a better attempt than expected, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then just nowadays, I don't think you care about multi as much now. Do you think like there's something changed?
Um, I think it's you know it's always in the back of my head to try to get back into it. It does feel, and I've had periods of time where I would kind of not do it, and then I would get back into it. I think it just feels like a big barrier now because there's a lot I'd have to relearn, and it's a it's a stressful event to practice. So I wouldn't rule out me trying to practice it more. I don't think I would be able to like push the boundaries, like Graham and Rowe are doing. I don't know if I'd ever be getting into 60 cube territory, but uh, you know, part of me wants to try to compete at Worlds 2025 in multi. But yeah, I think lately it's just been kind of harder to find the time and to like I have to make sure everything's quiet for an hour, and I have to scramble, that I have to spend the time analyzing DNFs after, and I've just been having a lot more fun practicing FMC lately, because also I can like listen to music and stuff in the background when I'm doing FMC. It's a lot less like 100% focused, but and I've also I'm kind of at a point where I'm happy with what I was able to achieve in the event, but it's always in the back of my head that because it was obviously a very important part of my life for a long time, and whenever I go to a major competition, people ask, why aren't you doing multi-blind? Now because I didn't do it at Worlds 23 or NAC 24.
Not
So
bringing 50 cubes is also
that is
understandable.
nice. That is nice. It makes the packing a lot easier, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you definitely haven't passed your time yet either. Graham and Roe are still quite a bit older than you, so you can do it at
That's
any time.
true. That's true. I mean, that's one thing about both multi and FMC is like it kind of feels like it's never too late. Like if I had like a just a rush of inspiration and had like the free time to practice again, I wouldn't rule it out, but I'm probably not gonna be. I don't know. I don't think I'd be getting WR again. I'll say that.
Yeah. Um, so I guess that's kind of the end of everything multi-blind now. So just for more FMC stuff, you've done FMC like pretty much just as long as multi, like you were saying, right? And I
Mhm.
know like you got third at FMC USA 2015, 2016, all that. Almost podiumed last, lost by single last year as well.
Yeah.
So prior to DR, what was kind of your process for getting better with blocks? Because I know it's high variance, but still there's like
Mhm.
stuff you could do to get from like 29 to 25 like you did.
Yeah. That was a really fun time for FMC, I think, because it was really just about having having as many tools in your toolbox as possible. And also, I mean, grinding a ton of attempts helped. I mean, like I said, I was just basically obsessed with the event and, doing all kinds of attempts. But, um, I think it was a matter of you have block building, but then also adding EO to that toolbox. So if you have like sometimes you'll have a scramble where it's beneficial to just go straight to block building. Sometimes you might do EO and then block building, or sometimes maybe you'll do a 2x3 and then do EO after that. And then also different finishes, like being able to potentially do like a 2x2x3 or F12-1 and then solve corners and get some kind of edge skeleton. That uh, can happen and be beneficial. That's kind of what happened with my 17 WR single, and also sort of the approach with Luke Garrett's
Oh
21 at
gosh.
NAC 24. Yeah. Um, but and then also like the more standard approach was like solving edges and getting some kind of corner skeleton. But yeah, I think at that time it was really just having as many tools as possible. And now it's a little, it's a little bittersweet to me. I think that now all the, I don't want to say that all solutions look the same. Like there's obviously opportunities for creativity, but it's basically always EO, RZP, DR, HDR, finish,
Hmm.
leap slice. It's a little sad to me. I liked when it was kind of the Wild West and I would do a completely different thing. I really liked the attempts that were like you get a 2x2x3 and then leave like five corners, three edges, and then do some kind of reverse miss and insert like a sexy move to solve edges, and then you get a corner skeleton like that. That was just so fun to me.
That sounds like what Kale was doing back then as well.
Yeah, I think that was because I remember that being a big thing that he would do, and I think Chris Chi had a lot of
Hmm.
solutions like that too back in the day. I yeah, I think Kale kind of started that trend of just the crazy like almost scrambled skeletons, and
Insertions,
then
yeah.
Yeah, and then inserting stuff with reverse NIS and like slicey shenanigans stuff, and
Mhm.
yeah, that was I don't know, that was a fun time.
Yeah, and I know some people definitely feel jaded towards FMC now with
Mhm.
DR. Um, and I know like Sebastiano even said like a week before he got 2133 at Euros just now, like a couple of days before, he literally said like, "Thanks DR for ruining my favorite event," and then he PR'd like
Yeah.
a couple days after. But I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I was never very into blocks because I just feel like it felt more out of my control, you know? And like there would be
Mhm.
like the higher variance of sometimes you just find nothing. And I mean like
Yeah.
I'm grateful that when and Jay like every
Yeah.
week will post something insane that I just don't understand and like solves and reconstructions. So
Yeah.
it reassures me that like I'm still far from knowing all there is to know.
Yeah, I feel very far from knowing like there's still probably, well, I don't want to say basic, but relatively basic stuff that I think I don't know. And it's kind of that way in blind too. Like uh I never really learned floating much at all, because I was more focused on multi than three blind, and I don't know. It just in both blind and FMC, I think there's some of the advanced stuff that I just haven't uh, put enough effort into learning, and I think I am hoping to try and do that with FMC at least.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's FMC is definitely a whole new thing now, and there's a lot of new interesting things to learn for sure.
Yeah. Going into World 17, I'm not. I know I'm kind of done with multi-blind, but were you like trying to put him in multi? 17 would have been your first Worlds, right? Because 15 was
Yeah,
middle of nowhere. But then you're also close to podium in FMC as well. So was that just like your goal
yeah,
of podium in either?
yeah, pretty much. And actually, I still remember that. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I remember on the first attempt there was a skeleton that I had for FMC that I did not pursue, but I realized later if I had, I could have tied for third.
Yeah, it was
And
20 to 5C.
was that okay? Is that right? Yeah. And I think it would have like canceled 9 for a 27 or something like that. Or was it 7 for a
Uh,
29? I'm not sure what I would have needed. I know it would have tied mean for third, and I still remember that. I still remember that because I didn't make that choice, I did not get my first world's podium there. But
mhm.
I don't know. That's a bit of a character flaw for me. I think I dwell on the things that I could have done better, but um,
Um, no, you don't need to do
it
that.
was still a great comp with a lot of great memories. Like being able to meet Shivam in person and Moscow in person. That was that was amazing.
What do you think like your preparation was like for a championship FMC and I guess multi back then with like blocks and whatnot?
Um, I think I probably didn't do anything that special. I mean, with multi, I think I tried to just simulate competition environment as much as I could, and but really, I think for both, I was just kind of doing attempts, and I would try. I think with FMC, the only thing I kind of do is I'll try to do attempts where I really like I'll do attempts before the comp with the mindset of like this is you know uh like I'm treating this as if this was an attempt at the comp, and like
Or like can't afford to DNF or
exactly,
not?
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll try to do. attempts like that, and to varying success. I think generally with FMC, I tend to compete pretty well. I definitely perform better in competition in FMC than multi overall, I think, but
Mhm.
I'll still have like neck 24A. Uh, I did very badly, so it still has some
The first
variance.
scramble was not a fair one, and I know a lot of people were like cut
Yeah,
out on that one.
yeah, I still feel like I did especially bad, but
Hmm.
there was I had some I was a bit rusty. I think I didn't have as much time to practice for a couple weeks leading into it, but you know it happens.
I am curious, like, you did end up getting WR single and average in 2019. Was FMC WR like on your mind very much? I guess at any point throughout cubing. And I know it could
Um,
happen at any point, but was that something you felt like you were working towards in that time?
I think I think it was a very different thing than multi. Like with multi, like I said, I very much had that mindset of like this is kind of the thing I'm working towards. With FMC, um, like it's always there, like it's always a possibility, but I was really just trying to like rack up as many shots at it as I could because I really, cared about FMC and wanted to get good results. But um, I guess it's just I guess it's a different thing where it's like you're 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 more like trying to get a lot of official attempts to get a crack at like a really good scramble, and with multi it's kind of a different thing.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, I think it was just a matter of wanting as many shots with that as I could. So I guess I was thinking about WR, but not really like expecting it to happen, just kind of trying to get as many opportunities to get a PR mean as I could.
Yeah. So you think it was just something that kind of like happened? It wasn't like a finally or something.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was well, like with that WR, like I was very happy about it. And the fact that the 17 was on a 16 optimal scramble was very findable. And I missed it quite quite stupidly, I can admit. That has always I don't know. That's always kind of lingered as something I wish I could change, but it was overall a very happy moment just to to achieve any record uh, in cubing. It's obviously it's a great feeling.
Hmm. And then just kind of, I don't know if you can walk us through the other
Mhm.
solves at that time. So I know the 17 was 13 to 2e2e, which did
Mhm.
you do a lot of like 2e2e insertions back then with blocks? Because I feel like it's kind of rare that it ends up
Yeah,
working well like that.
yeah. It was. I mean, just the fact that just the fact to get a 2e2e skeleton like that, and then to
Like you can actually use R2U2 R2U2 on it.
I know, yeah, like that was really yeah, I don't know what to say about that. That's very unusual for sure. I mean, I think that leads back into the idea of just I was trying to get as many opportunities attempts as I could. And I think that's part of the reason why I didn't really have that knowledge of the edge algs that I should where instead of R2U2 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 you can do what is it R2U2 L2.
Yeah, something like that.
um there's the other variant where you can widen moves, and I didn't have the. I mean, I guess going back to the you have to have a lot of things in your toolbox. I didn't have that knowledge in my toolbox, unfortunately,
Hmm.
and it's just not an opportunity I'm ever likely to get again. Uh, but yeah, that was definitely a very rare situation. Most of my attempts were like, leaving some kind of corner skeleton. So
Mm-hmm.
an edge insertion like that was pretty weird. I mean, just getting, I don't know, just a result like that before the time of DR at all was very unusual, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
And I have wondered about that before, like if you knew the other alg or not. And obviously, I didn't want to ask. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I always just thought like getting a skeleton like that and then having it actually work out with blocks
Mhm.
is like
Yeah.
there's probably no reason to check anything else on that. So I think it's understandable.
I didn't. I think I just didn't know the alg. I mean, like it's probably the kind of thing that I had like maybe seen once, and then it just doesn't come up so often that I
Hmm.
thought there was just and so I remember like looking for other things to do with the skeleton because I did have quite a bit of time, but uh, yeah, widening moves there and using that alternate alg, I was not able to think of. So I've kicked myself for that one a little bit. It's probably been too hard on myself for that one, and
Hmm.
kind of am able to let that go now. But
And
it's oh well.
yeah. Do you remember what the other two salts were like? Because I don't know what you were averaging at that point. I know your PR before was
Yeah.
25. So I mean 28 with blocks. I can understand happens sometimes. But do you remember what
Yeah.
that or the 22 were like?
Um, I don't remember. I think the 28 was probably. I think it was some kind of like maybe 17 to 4C or something like that if I had to guess. I definitely remember the 22. I think was just a direct finish. I think it was some kind of skip, and that was also very lucky. I remember just being very happy with that attempt because there was just having 17 in a mean, like it was very
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of pressure on me. um, and I think I don't know. I think in some ways I just kind of stumbled upon a lucky finish, but that's also kind of what the meta was at that time, is to try a lot of things and get something. So uh, I was always like very happy with myself on that attempt. That I think I handled the pressure relatively well and was able to get that. Especially after the second attempt not going that well.
Yeah, and I think WR was 23 flat before, I believe. So do you think you were
I
thinking
think that's
about,
right.
were you thinking about like, oh, I need 24 to tie that or something like that going into the last?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that was like the only thing on my mind for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure of starting with 17 and 28
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, would be a little crazy.
I remember another meme somewhere where I had like I can't remember what the order was. It was something like either DNF or like 37 or something, and then a 19. Um,
20, 23, 37, 19.
yeah, okay. That was, I mean, that's another. You have those situations like that where you're like, I wish those attempts could have happened in a different order, and maybe if I had the 19, I would have done something, differently, or maybe I would have gone the same. Who knows?
Hmm.
But that's another thing that's, I guess it's not completely unique to FMC, but I don't know. You have so much time to think between attempts, and you have
So much time to think during the attempt.
during the attempts, and also it's just like, you know, the results are just integers. It's just like I need this. This plus this gives me this mean. So it's just,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's very granular in that way of like, to get this result, I need this. You know.
Yeah.
And if this person gets this, they get that mean. It's
Hmm.
it's different from other events in that way, I think.
Do you remember what that first sub 20 was like?
Uh, Not at all, to be honest. I think it was a three-corner skeleton. I believe it was. I think it was 12 to three corners actually, and I think it
Wow.
canceled one. And I was like really wondering, like, is there some way to insert some weird alg or something and get like, like I was kind of like after the attempt, I was kind of stressed about it. I was like, did I miss
Yeah.
something? You always think about that, and also with DR, that's something that hasn't gone away. Like, you'll wonder, like, did I miss optimal by one on this? And
Yeah. Especially with
yeah.
it being just enough to get sub 20, but then it's like not that good of insertion as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Right.
and I mean, if you only have 12 to 3C, like there's not many moves to insert into
True.
anyways. But
That's true. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm curious, what were your like at-home averages or like PBs like around this time with blocks?
Um, I think, you know, with blocks it was pretty hard to really get your global average to be too low, I think. I think it was
Or like
probably
consistent?
yeah. I think I mean my global was probably around 25.5-ish or 20, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like around that time. I think probably like my PRs were somewhat representative, and then if you travel to enough comps, and especially comps with multiple means, you'll eventually, hopefully, get a chance at really good PRs. So,
Mm-hmm. So then, bridging the gap from blocks to DR,
mhm.
um, what I guess just can you tell that story? When did it get involved for you? How was it like emerging in cubing in general?
Mhm. Um, I I mean, I just always remember. I remember like relatively early on having some awareness of it. I remember seeing, I think Sebastian Aru did a DR solve for one of the David Adams weeklies, and that was kind of my first exposure to it. And I just looked at it at that time as like, oh, this is like a hyper specific thing, that you can sometimes find to finish off this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember Kale like developing it a lot and like posting DR solves, and I think he did a lot of stuff with like doing attempts that were over 1 hour, and experimenting with DR in that way. And at that time, I thought just like searching that much stuff in a scramble didn't seem viable. I'm always like I think I think I've learned over the years not to like never to count anything out
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I had like I think I had much lower expectations of how much multi-blind was going to develop and what the limits were going to be, and I had I was just very uh I was not optimistic at all on DR, and like I thought it would not be viable whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
and it just completely took over the event, and it was just you know obviously the right approach now.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I had a note about it. What did you think back then that like multi or multi limits would be then? Like, could you have imagined like 50 or 60 cubes being possible in the hour?
Around do you mean like kind of back in 2018-ish, or
Yeah, I guess. Or probably then. Yeah.
yeah, I th- probably at that time I thought I think I thought the limit was probably around 60.
Mm-hmm.
um and now I don't even want to give an estimate, I mean, like Rose improvement was just so fast, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many variables in multi-blind that's hard to say. Like I would not be surprised if 90 is theoretically possible. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know if
maybe
anyone.
someone's brain will just be equipped to like two pass
Yeah.
fingers and everything. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, that's the other thing is I do wonder if there's, because I have like I've read a little bit about memory and just like there's like people with synesthesia where they'll just link certain senses to other senses, and it
Hmm.
can allow people to have like more vivid connections to information that you might think is kind of mundane, because they'll hear something and it might have like a certain color or smell to them kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I've heard like stories of people with, basically close to what you would consider like a photographic memory. And I have wondered, like, is there a possibility of someone just, I don't know, just being at a point where they can trace once or trace twice, and there that
Hmm.
that sentence is just in their head forever now. Like, is that possible? It's
Yeah, and I
just.
mean, like even with 3x3 now, like with the hang, it's just like there can
Hmm.
always be someone that just comes along and then just
Hmm.
changes what the approach is or does it differently, and it's just more
For sure.
equipped to do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about for sure.
But back to DR, I have some like I guess pretenses I've heard or thought about. So to me, the first thing I heard was that the first person to like do DR every attempt probably was Kale, and that would make sense with what you were saying now. And
Yeah, I think yeah,
and I
that's my understanding. Yeah.
and I think that would have been like around mid 2019 as well, because I think he was doing that
Yep.
at Nats
Hmm.
was a DR every time. Um, and then also I think like Harry Savage's 17 was also a big motivator for people
Hmm.
because I think that was the first record with it as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, talking with Jay McNeil about it was definitely what got me into it. He was very helpful with, you know, teaching me and just helping me to, I mean, just with every aspect of it, really. He was incredibly important in my development with that, and I think that was probably around. I guess it was around when COVID-19 was kind of starting, probably, that I got into it,
mhm.
and learning DR, and obviously not a lot of comps around that time. uh, it wasn't until later that I was able to start getting some official means in with it. But
So
I
you think
guess
you just kind of like steadfast on like keeping blocks prior to that time? Do you think you were like kind of like waiting for like a WR with DR before adapting it more,
I
or
think I think I was just waiting. I don't know. I think I'm probably just kind of stubborn and set in my ways in some ways, and I've just I just kind of was waiting for more confirmation that, like, this is where the event is going and this is
Mhm.
the meta. I wish I could say, like, I wish I could say, oh, I was a trailblazer, and I was one of the first ones doing it, but nah, I think I was probably one of the people holding on to, can I keep doing my fun blocks, and and realizing now that, like, people's global averages with this are just, insanely good. Um, and I remember seeing memes from, like, Tommy Caprillis, and
Mhm.
on like weekly comps and stuff, and just seeing how much DR was developing, and seeing Jay's results with it, and
Yeah, and then so and HTR wasn't always the thing that people did with DR.
Mhm.
So I guess yourselves kind of started like with doing corner insertions, edge insertions, looking for good corners and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
Prior to
Yep.
how I wasn't really involved in it yet until after you told me about it. But how did like hyperparity emerge, and like why were people convinced that HTR every time would be good?
Um, I guess I wasn't as much on the. I think I was more on the side of just kind of taking some of the stuff in and learning it, and not as much in like the theory crafting side. For me, it was more just trying to learn from uh, some of the work that Jay was doing into studying it, and I learned hyperparity, which is Rodney Kinney's system, for recognizing the HPR
Hmm.
cases. So, uh, yeah, as far as like determining why that was the best approach, I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I guess that there was probably just kind of a realization that, uh, I mean, I think there was always kind of a realization that corners first after DR was the right approach, and then from there it's kind of easy to see that
Hmm.
HTR leads to better situations with the edges and not having to do like these 8 move cases and hope for a nice cancel and that kind of thing, I
Yeah,
guess.
like 10 move algorithm or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it just, leads to a lot of options with like leaving slice as well, and uh, or just direct finishes, I guess.
yeah, and in my mind, I think hyperparity was like the first system that people were doing to get to HDR every time. I'm not sure
Mhm.
if that's true though. Um,
Yeah, I think probably people focus more on just kind of knowing the corner solutions
Corner solutions,
more
yeah.
now,
I'm
and
think
just knowing how to deal with each subset, I guess.
I'm thinking back to
I, I'm
like
I'm yeah.
I was gonna say I'm thinking back to like Jack Love saying in like 2022
Oh yeah.
like that like he had a bunch of corner algs listed and just memorized them and then like was saying that HDR should be done like every time pretty much.
Yep, yeah, Jack Love's solutions. I kind of forgot. That was a big thing I was looking at when I was first learning DR as well, and some of his resources. And I think that uh, I think that he did that document, right? Wasn't it like 100 solves that he
Yep.
generated with, yeah, with basically like every single one was EODR, HDR
Hmm.
finish. And I think that was also a big indication of like just how low global averages could get with HDR finishes every time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of forgot to mention that before, but yeah, now that you mentioned Jack Love, yeah, I think that was a huge part of that.
Hmm. And I know there was also like Sebastiano's like DR book or something on speed solving that
Yeah.
people would read back in like 2019, and I remember doing that and not getting anything from it at all.
that was that was something that it helped me a lot with dealing with DR triggers and just getting to DR. As far as like finish after DR, I don't think I've carried too much forward from that, but for me it was a helpful resource. I mean, it was kind of the main, other than like example solves, I think it was kind of the
Mhm.
main DR resource at the time.
Yeah, I don't know if you can relate, but I think just learning DR for me came pretty much solely from other people teaching it to me than like
Yeah.
trying to read something about it or something that
I,
explains it.
yeah, it was definitely a lot of it was through learning from other people for me, mainly Jay McNeil. But I do remember, I mean, just like getting the basic concept down from Sebastiano's document for sure.
Hmm. So overall, would you say that you like FMC more now than like 2021 or 2019, 2017?
Um, I think it was more fun back then. I have to say, unfortunately, but it's uh I definitely still really enjoy it. It's a very different event. I was more I think I was more obsessed with it back then. Like just doing like I just always wanted to do attempts. Like I would do multiple attempts a day for for a long time. And I don't know. Now, I mean, I'm still like relatively recently practiced it a lot, but I don't think I'm quite as it's just a different thing now. I think before it was almost like a slot machine, like it would bring me back kind of like you're gambling on blocks and
Hmm.
insertions, and now it's more of I guess ironically it's more of the thing I kind of said I liked about it, where it's like taking a test,
Hmm.
and it is more like you're pitting your own knowledge against the scramble. So that's kind of an advantage to it now, I guess. Is with DR, I think being good at finding EOs and trying RZPs and identifying good DRs and knowing your HTR subsets, like I think that knowledge is more rewarded now if you can apply it. So
Hmm.
that's an advantage now for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious if you think you like the more systemized process of it, because I'm not sure what you were thinking like going into an attempt. Like if I have a goal, I want to do this or some sort of steps or something like that.
You mean like pre DR?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I guess thinking back, it really was like every attempt was different. Like the time management would often be different. I mean, I would have kind of benchmarks for like, okay, I think I can do a four corner insertion this quickly. I think I can do a three corner insertion this quickly, right? But
Hmm.
there would be some attempts where it's just you have nothing, and then 5 minutes to go, you have some kind of direct finish, and now the time management is a lot more regimented for sure. Um, I don't know. I think like I have kind of an analytical side where I like the more systemized, like I basically know what I'm getting into every time now, but there is a part of me that likes the more creative, like, what is this attempt going to be kind of approach. It's almost like it really is almost like they're two different events, I think, and I enjoy them both for different reasons, I guess.
So that's mostly it for cubing questions, I guess. The last couple things I have written here is outside of cubing. I know I briefed you on it before, but I guess what activities do you just like outside of cubing? I know you like movies and video games.
Hmm.
Outside of that,
Yeah, I've always I've always liked creative fields. My like both my parents drew, so they got me into drawing at a young age. I've always liked drawing, like comic books and yeah, video games and movies. When I went to college at University of Michigan Dearborn, I first majored in math, which is kind of my analytical side, and then I ended up dual majoring in math and media production, so took a lot of like video editing and film classes. Um, so I'm kind of I think as far as like career path and stuff like that, I'm definitely trying to pursue creative fields.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely, I don't know. I just try to consume as much, art and entertainment as I can in my spare time and outside of cubing, I guess.
Yeah, and I know. I was wondering if you could detail like that transition from after school into finding work, because I know obviously a lot of cubers are unaware youth who don't know what the experience is like or are dreading it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice on it because I'm still figuring that out a little bit, and also so like right now I'm doing freelance video editing work, and I like I said I'm kind of a socially awkward person. I'm not the easiest to like go up and just kind of approach people. So just like working with people and finding clients it can be a bit of a struggle. I have a couple people that I've worked with, and I'm just kind of trying to build those relationships, I guess. And
Hmm.
I think like my biggest advice is probably just you just have to go out and try something. And I didn't like it's something just like finding work and uh, trying to establish myself more in that way. It's kind of something I dread as well. So I can definitely relate to a lot of people my age now not looking forward to that. But I think if you, I don't know, I think like I've been impressed lately just by trying to put myself out there and do something. Like you'll do one job and that'll give you more confidence and lead to, maybe that person recommending you to another client. And like it these things kind of can build very quickly, I think. And also, um, there's actually this is the kind of a do as I say and not as I do moment, but I wish that I had there's a lot of opportunities in cubing as well. Like I could have used some of I probably could have pursued some opportunities in like video editing or like working on live streams and stuff at major competitions and stuff. I haven't really done that, but if anyone's listening to this and dreading the getting into the workforce, if there's more opportunities now where you might be able to find something in cubing that could kind of get your start too. So I don't know. It's still something I'm figuring out.
Hmm. And I mean, it's your success is based on the people you know, right? So, and
Hmm.
I mean, obviously you can. I trust you can talk to more people and engage more. I mean, you're doing this 2 hour plus interview now. God.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy talking. I think it's the initial barrier, first like going up to someone or first initiating a back and forth with someone. That's like the scary part, quote unquote. But
Yeah.
I enjoy talking.
The theme is meet new people, meet more people.
Yeah, try things. Get yourself out there, even if it's something. I mean, because what's the worst that can happen, right? Is like you'll have an experience you can learn from,
Hmm.
and maybe it'll be something you can put on a resume. Maybe it's something you can use to get another opportunity and meet more people.
Hmm.
So,
So wrapping up now, I guess last few questions is what do you think was your favorite competition that you've been to?
uh, that's a great question. Um, a lot of a lot of the nationals and North American champs have been really great competitions. Um, I remember some of the like PBQ competitions and like there was a local I'm trying to there was one like local Michigan PBQ comp that I think it was literally like 6 people or something, and that's kind of a fun experience too.
Yeah.
Um, just like I remember a point where we were just like at the food court where the venue was, and it was just like 6 people around a table we were having like Wendy's or something like that, and someone was just like, "This is the entire competition right here." So I don't know. I think I enjoy the big comps. I enjoy the small comps. If I had to pick a favorite, I really enjoyed Worlds 2019 a lot. Actually, I think that would probably be my favorite. Just and Worlds 2023 I enjoyed a lot too, but 2019 I think it was. I mean, also I was able to spend a few weeks in Australia and just had a great time
Hmm.
with my friends and just also was able to perform well at the competition. So it was just kind of, I don't know, that was just kind. I know that's kind of including some stuff outside the competition, but it was just kind of a
No, makes sense.
perfect experience. And also, yeah, I just remember getting to meet some really cool people there. Like one was I got to meet Zane Carney, and that was just like a really
Oh.
like I had watched a lot of his videos and
Hmm.
analyzed because he also had a memo system that was like very diametrically opposed to how I would do it, where he would do just 2 letter pairs in each location, whereas
Oh.
I go for the kind of like longer stories.
Yeah. That's
I,
interesting.
yeah, no, it was just like it was just kind of interesting a thing for me to look at and kind of analyze and experiment with, and uh, getting to meet him and talk to him was just a really interesting like I don't know, like a moment, like a figure from my cubing roots, like having watched his videos too and been an inspiration to me and getting to meet him. So, and
Hmm.
obviously getting to meet Mascow at Worlds 2017 was an incredible experience. Uh, but yeah, I guess if I have to pick one, I'll say Worlds 2019 was probably my favorite experience.
Hmm. And I know we touched on it earlier. I was gonna ask for your favorite accomplishment, but
Hmm.
I'd imagine it'd just be the multi WR more than the FMC WR.
Yeah, um, I I was very happy about both, and actually, podium at Worlds 2019 was an accomplishment I was very happy about as well. But I think I would have to pick 43 out of 44. It was just such a culmination of what I've been working towards, and was it was just a really nice moment. I mean, it's there's not. I mean, obviously, if I could go back in time and remember that one cube, I guess that's the only thing. But I don't know. It was just kind of a perfect experience, and also like the whole like I said, the whole situation with my cubes being lost at the airport, and just it just kind of I don't know. It was a great moment, and just kind of also had these like funny stories behind it, and always something I'm gonna remember for sure.
Hmm.
And always gonna remember Kit and Walker being there and giving Walker a big hug afterwards, and just I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting that like your Michigan clique or whatever went to that Oregon comp as well altogether.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, there were a lot of like I would go to a lot of the like Minnesota comps that Walker Wells would organize, and well, also part of it is that Kit started off in Michigan and then moved to Portland,
Yeah.
and now he's in Illinois. But we kind of had this friend group that uh, and then he moved across the country, but we all kind of stuck together and still talk on Discord, and it's yeah, just there have been a lot of been a lot of people in cubing that I've just developed really strong friendships with, and I know like if I try to list everyone, I would forget a lot of people, but
Yeah.
just it's been a great community to be a part of for sure.
Hmm. And what role do you think cubing will have going forward now in your life? I I'm thinking that you want to beat 2233 in FMC, but
I
hoping you don't just dip after that.
I would like to. I think that I don't mean to sound so like I don't want to sound like I'm like depressed or dwelling on, things I could have done differently in the past, but I think like beating 2233 would give me a little closure on FMC just because, I feel like there's missed opportunities there and still things I want to do. But uh I think probably going forward it'll probably become more and more of just a social thing where I'll kind of go to comps and hang out with people and talk with people, and that's kind of the most important part, I think. But
Hmm.
I am hoping to get some serious practice in for Worlds 25. I'm looking forward to that, and maybe multi. We'll see. I mean, the thing is, I always get this rush of motivation after a major comp. I don't know if you get that as well,
Hmm.
um, but like anytime like a major comp is ending, I'm like I want to do this and I want to learn this and
Yep.
learn full floating or whatever it is. And like after Worlds 23, I kind of had that too, and then didn't end up making the time to practice multi. So we'll see if the motivation, if it's just the post neck motivation talking, but
Hmm.
uh, you know, I I still want to I still want to get some serious practice in for FMC at the very least, and but either way, the most important thing is just the friendships and the socializing with people and looking forward to the next big comp for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at Worlds 25 as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Um, so my last two questions here are kind of stupid ones. The first one is, can you tell the story of the tank picture from, I think that's Worlds, not FMC World 2019, right?
Yep, that was FMC World, and we I don't remember whose idea it was, but I'm pretty sure that it was like right outside the venue, and I'm pretty sure the tank had like a sign that was like, "Don't please don't climb." And I'm normally not the kind of person to do that kind of thing, but I don't know. I was there with Kale and Walker, and I was just kind of like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And the yeah, the turret of the tank is in a very suggestive location.
I'm pretty curious about the poses you guys are making on this. I don't know why Kale is missing an arm as well.
Yeah, it does look straight. I think his arm, I mean, I guess it's just behind his back. But I don't know. We were just kind of doing like an onward into battle type thing, and it's definitely one of my favorite pictures for sure. I remember someone. I don't know who it was, but I remember someone saying like, "Oh, that picture's not real. You guys just photoshopped yourself out of the tank, right?" And I was like furiously going through my camera roll, and actually it was pretty funny because the first I brought up a picture and I'm see, we were taking pictures of it, and it was a picture of the tank without us on it. That I had taken before, and I was like, wait, because that makes it look like
Yeah.
we did just Photoshop ourselves on. I'm like, wait, wrong one. And like the next photo was us on the tank, but in a different pose. Like we were getting like ready to do this pose, and I felt vindicated. I was, that I was able to prove we were there. We were on the tank. It happens. I have the proof.
Yeah.
That was that was a great. I don't know. That was a fun moment for sure.
And then my other one is about something I think you might wish that you didn't have proof of. Is why did you and other Midwest people eat butter in a minute?
Oh my god. It's actually not what I thought you were gonna bring up.
Oh, what do you think? I haven't mentioned the annoying orange one yet.
Oh my god. We almost made it. We almost made it. Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
I tempted fate. I tempted fate. Well, with the butter thing, I just remember. I think it was at the Michigan Cuban Club, some meeting, and someone, or was it at a local comp? I don't know. But it was just someone said, what was it exactly now? I think there was some conversation about things that were like difficult to eat in a certain time frame, and like one was like, could you eat a bunch of saltine crackers without water this amount of time or something? And then someone mentioned a stick of butter, and they said something about like, could you eat a stick of butter in 2 minutes? I think was what it was, and I was like. I was like, that sounds incredibly easy.
No, it doesn't.
And they were like, but everyone was like, no, you're insane. And I'm like, do you know how long 2 minutes is? And I think I don't know, I think it just came down to that kind of like, I have to put my money where my mouth is now. I was like, I feel very confident that I can do this. And it's definitely not the most it's not the most flattering video of me out there. Yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, well, for one thing, it was unsalted butter. I don't think I could do it with salted butter. I think that would be pretty rough. But I was enjoying it actually. I thought it was like a kind of nice, like sweet treat. And I guess everyone finds that very bizarre.
Yeah.
So. But I will say, like, I had this huge rush of energy after eating. I guess it's just all the calories. I don't know. It felt. It was a very bizarre feeling afterwards. I was like, "Whoa!" It's like I have done something to my body I'm not supposed to. And then afterwards, I just completely like shut down. Like I was so exhausted.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always wondered, like, the scientist in the back of my head is like, what if you did it before a multi-attempt? Like right before, down a stick of butter.
Well, it would take your mind off of it, I'm pretty sure.
I think I'm worried that I would try it and like it would improve my focus so much, like I would just get an insanely good attempt, and then I'd be like, oh, I have to eat a stick of butter before every attempt now. I'd rather not know. I'd rather just not know if it works or not.
Yeah, I don't think I want to know either.
Performance enhancer.
Maybe that's what they'll be doing to get to 80 sub-hour.
Yeah, that would be amazing if that's the hack. That's it.
I remember I got my first sub 30 4x4 average. I had a like Jimmy John's sandwich before I competed, and then I'd like take a bite of it and then chew on it while solving.
Did it become like a superstition for you? Do you try to get
I
Jimmy
haven't done
John's
it.
before every?
I haven't done it again since, but I think about it. I think if I ever get like really nervous for a round again, I'm gonna do that because if you don't think about the sandwich, then you'll
Yeah,
choke on it. So
that's true. Yeah. I've always had like I think I've had weird things like that where I was like, I mean, I don't know. I hate to admit to being kind of superstitious because I know it's not like I know it actually doesn't have an effect. It's just like a psychological thing. But I would have things where I'm like, oh, this is like my lucky blindfold or whatever. Or like
yeah.
this is the shirt I wore when I got NAR or something. And then I would kind of I would kind of go forward with that and then get like a train wreck attempt with it or so, like wearing the same shirt or something and be like, oh, okay, never mind. Now I can't wear that shirt for any more attempts. Just silly stuff like that.
Okay, well, I think that's going to be the end of it, Mark. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
I had a lot of fun. Really appreciate you having me on.